Welcome back to the vlog. Thanks for joining me today. Before we get started, I have a little announcement to make. Apparently there was an incident, well, I wouldn't call it an incident, a happening late one night at Capital Casino. There were several people in a game and they were apparently filming using their phones. And someone got upset about it, and there was a argument that involved bringing in the floor man. And one thing led to another, and the management at Capital Casino decided that vlogging was no longer a good idea for their patrons. So management came down with the decision that they're no longer going to allow vlogging at Capital Casino. Of course, this is a setback for the vlogging community. I did speak with management, and they are a fan of my vlog. They like the work I've been doing, and they appreciate all the extra business and attention that I have provided them over the last 3-4 years with my vlog. And since I am an employee of Capital Casino, I do work their Sunday tournaments. I'm sure a few of you have seen me there. Management felt comfortable giving me an exemption. Not only am I a tournament director, but I am also a social media influencer for the casino. And I appreciate the exemption because it allows me to continue my vlog and continue to bring you everything that you are accustomed to. Nothing much changes in the way I do my work. Everything's going to be the same thing. I'm just going to tell it like it is and present it to you. I did ask if it was possible to expand the exemption to another logger. They did not feel comfortable with that. They were very adamant in saying that I am the only person they really trust to video at the casino, and that they have no plans on changing their position. So Brad Owens, Andrew Nemi, Mariano, Ethan, sorry man, off limits here. This is all mine, all mine. All right, enough about that. Let's get into some poker. We're at Capital Casino, playing in the 1-3 game. We buy in for $500 and off we go. We've been playing for about 15 minutes. We won one small pot, so we're up about $50. This is just to show you how the game has been playing. I'm under the gun. I opened for $15 with Ace King suited. I get called in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 spots. So we're going to go 8 ways to a flop with $120 in. Flop comes 8 high with none of my suits, so we're just going to give up on this. And the hand that won it was 8-4 offsuit. Action game. Obviously, I'm going to need to adjust my raise sizing here to try to limit the field. There was a $6 straddle. One player limps. I figure $40 would get it done. But instead, I get 1, 2, 3, and 4 callers. So it's better than 8, but it still could be a lot less. So we're going to go 5 ways to this flop with $201 in. This time the flop comes king high with 2 clubs. Not great for ace queen with no club. It's check to me. I'm not going to bet this against 4 opponents, and they're very, very sticky. Turn card comes as a 3 of clubs. Yeah, we're just going to give up on this one also. Someone does end up betting, and when they do, we're just going to end up mucking it and move on to the next hand. We have one player that limps. Another player from the cutoff raises to 25. I got a call from the small blind for the 25, and me being in the big blind, I think I've had enough of this stuff, so I decided I'm going to put in a big raise. Maybe this will get them to fold. So I make it 125. Player tanks for a very long time, ends up folding, and so does the other player. So I finally found an amount that they would not call, and that's a $125 bet pre-flop. Well, here there's a $17 straddle. I look down at ace 10 suited from the cutoff. I make it $40. The button puts in the call for the $40, and the straddler actually folds. So it's going to be heads up between me and the button. We got $101 in the pot. Flop comes out queen high with 2 hearts. So I got an overcard, a possible straight draw, and of course the flush draw. I'm first to act. I bet for $35. He just wants me to take the money back, and he ends up folding his cards. Well, we've been playing for about 2 hours now, and we haven't really gotten anywhere. We're slightly ahead. And then finally we pick up a real hand. We get pocket queens in the low jack. There's a $15 open. The player to my right calls for the 15. I decided to raise to 70. I figured that might be big enough to limit the field and get it heads up, or maybe two opponents. Player on my left decides to make a quick call for the $70. Not quite sure what kind of hand he has. He's been playing a whole bunch of them. The original raiser now also puts in the call for the 70, and the second $15 caller decides to muck his hand. With $229 in the pot, we're going three ways. Hopefully we can flop something good. No ace, no king, no ace, no king, and sure enough, right on the flop is a king, followed by a queen, so that's fine by me. Hoping someone has ace king here. Hopefully no one has a flush draw. First player does end up checking it over to me. I do not have a queen of spades, so it's more likely that someone might have a flush draw. I'm not blocking that. I decided to go for 70 just because their stack sizes are not very threatening. And if they have a king, I think they're going to just go ahead and shove. First player ends up folding out. I'm a little bit sad by that. Next player does put in the call. Turn card comes, ace of diamonds. Pretty good card. If for some reason he's taken one off with a hand like ace jack or ace 10, he now made top pair. If he had an ace high flush draw, he now has top pair. If he has jack 10, so be it. After some thought and some delay, he decides just to shove all in, which is fine by me. He has about $150 left in his stack. Of course, I'm not going anywhere. I go ahead and make the quick call. Pick up the camera, get a good view of a king on the river. We make a full house. He taps the table saying, "You're good." I didn't want to make him show. He's had a pretty rough day so far. I played for about another hour after this hand. Didn't really pick up much. Won a little pot, lose a little pot. Not much action. Anyway, we came back 2 days later and we pick up pocket queens. About 25 minutes into our session, we're on the button. There's a $20 straddle. One player limps in for the $20. Me having two queens on the button, I decided to raise. I made it 70. The big blind now takes their time, looks at their cards twice, and decides to call the 70. I think if he had something better like aces or kings, he would want to isolate me. He has a stack about the same size. This invites the straddler to come in for additional $50, so he puts that money in. And now the first limper decides to shove all in for $273. Now it's kind of odd that someone would limp in when there's a $20 straddle with a big hand. You figured they would just come in raising. So I think they're more inclined to have, say, medium to small pocket pair that they're going to go with, or perhaps a big ace. The idea here is just to isolate this person. Don't want to go three ways or four ways to the river. So I'm going to go ahead and jam all in. Hopefully the other two players will fold out, and then I'll be up against this one person with all that dead money. But the big blind makes a very quick call. Has me very nervous. Maybe they slow played something. Oh well, all the money's in. Let's see what the run out is. Flop comes 10 high with two eights. Okay. Turn, not bad. 4, river, 9. That could be trouble. I show my pocket queens, and he had me beat all the way with pocket kings. All right, not the greatest start in the world, but let's reload for another 500. The seat to my left just came open, so I slid over to it to get a little bit better view. And sure enough, I looked down at pocket queens again. There was an open. I raised to $45. I got two callers, one from the big blind and one from the straddler. Flop comes out, ace high. I decided just to check this back against two opponents. Turn card comes as a 3 of diamonds. I'm indifferent. Sometimes I would bet, sometimes I would check. Guy was eyeballing me, so I felt like he might be waiting for me to bet, so I decided to check it back. And then we catch another diamond on the end. Of course, I do not have the queen of diamonds. Big blind checks. Next player goes all in. Two queens in a row, two queens down. Well, queens aren't working for me today, so let's try some aces. Player under the gun opens for $10. He puts in these small raises with mediocre hands. I make it 35. I want to get some action from another player and from him. I do get one caller, but he has a very short stack. He only has like 140, and of course the initial opener calls. So we go three ways to a flop with 109 in. That comes out really good. Ace high. We got top set on a very dry board. There are some gut shots available. One check to me, I'm just going to continue for $30. We go about 1/3 pot. I get a quick call from the player with the very short stack in the low jack position. And the player to my right also decides he's going to call for $30. Turn card comes is an 8 of diamonds. It does introduce a gut shot to a straight draw if someone had jack 10, so now they have a double gutter. Also the flush card. So there's a couple more draws out there. I'm going to make my bet $80 this time. It's enough to put the player in the low jack all in, and if I get called by the player on my right, I'm fine with that. So he does call all in. He had $68, so I get like $12 back. River card's a 10 of diamonds. I show my hand, and of course it's good. So we finally win one. Yay. Occasionally I like to open with suited connectors in early position. Here I got 7-6 of clubs, so I made it $15 from the +1 position. End up getting two callers for the $15. So we're going to go three ways to a flop with $49 in the center. Flop is an interesting one. It comes ace high, but there is a 6 and there is a backdoor flush and straight draw. I decided I'm just going to keep my foot on the gas and bet out for $20. I get a quick call from the player on my left. He probably has some sort of weak ace. Turn card comes as a club. It does pair the board. I decided that I want to continue with my entire range on a club. So I'm going to make it a little bit larger, trying to put pressure on those weak aces. He puts in a quick call, try to get away with giving me a blue chip, but he got caught. And we're going to go see a river card heads up. My plan is to barrel big with any card, including the 5 of clubs. And my goal was to get him to fold, say, an ace rag type of hand. So I figure if I make it, I might as well keep about the same pressure. I was thinking 160 when I was considering bluffing this. So I make it 160 when I made my hand. After betting 160, I thought, maybe that's just a little too large for him. Maybe he would call 120 in a heartbeat. But since I was thinking I was going to bet 160, that's what I did. He lets it go, and he got away from running into a runner-runner flush. This next one isn't a very big pot, but it was interesting. I got queen 10 of clubs in the +1 position. I opened for a raise to 15. It's folded around to the player in the big blind, who's a very knowledgeable player, and he puts in the call for the 15. We head off to a flop that comes out 6-5-4 with 2 clubs. So I got a flush draw, 2 overcards. Against some opponents, I would bet this, but against him, I'm going to be checking it back just because that range is not good for my hand. Turn card comes is the ace of diamonds. He checks again. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a delayed continuation bet here for half pot, $15. Ace definitely hits my range, does not really hit his very hard. But him being a good, solid player, he knows that he could be slow playing something good on that flop. And he goes for the check raise, and he makes it $65. So it's $50 for me to call. And right now I'm really wishing that I have checked this back one more time. Against weaker opposition, I think my bet is fine. I can get a lot of folds from someone that has a mediocre pair. But against a tough opponent, they know that that flop hits their range much more harder than it hits mine, and that they can probably get me off of it. And I end up folding. I wasn't getting the right price for my draw, And even if I hit my draw, man, he could have had ace blank of clubs. Note to self, beware of good players. They are capable of putting you in really tough spots. Player to my left opens for $15. He gets 3 callers, and so for 12 more, I'm going to continue. I put in the money, and we're going to go 5 ways to this flop with 75 in. Flop comes out not bad for my hand. It comes ace 4-4 with 2 diamonds. So I got the second nut flush draw. I check it, expecting someone with an ace to go ahead and take a stab at it. It ends up getting checked around. Turn card comes is a deuce of clubs. I think I can go ahead and represent either a 4 or an ace here pretty easily. I am in the blind, and I would check most of my hands in that position. So I bet out for $50. Now the original raiser tanks for a little bit and decides to make the call for the $50. Now, I think he has basically 2 possible hands here. Either has a monster, has me crushed, or he has some sort of like flush draw, like say king, queen of clubs, or queen, jack of clubs, something like that. All the other players fold out, so my plan is to bomb the pot with everything except a club. If I hit the diamond, fine. If I hit a club, I'm checking no matter what it is. River card comes as a 9 of hearts. Really interesting card. Now I can beat a lot of his hands that were flush draws. So I decided to check it and bluff catch. He checks it back right away. I showed my queen 9 of diamonds. The 9 is good, of course. Well, I'm fighting back from my stuck position. I'm only down $200 right now. I'm under the gun, and I got pocket 9s. Figure this open for $15. I get a call from the player in the cutoff, one from the small blind, and then the player who's in the big blind, who didn't put out his $3 yet, puts his $3 in, looks at his hand, and decides it's worth $42 more. So he makes it $45 to go. All right, he's been playing fairly snug up until now. So when he's raising out of the big blind, I think he has a very good hand. Probably jacks plus, maybe ace king occasionally. So we're going to go set mining. The other 2 players didn't look like they were interested in doing any raising, so I'm not really worried about them reopening it. So for $30 more, it's going to be 180 in the center, and that's 6 to 1, plus any implied odds I get from actually hitting a set. I think this is a good opportunity to get ourselves even. Flop comes out ace, ace, jack. Not a very good flop. In fact, everything in this range has me beat. Some of them have me drawing dead, perhaps, if he had pocket jacks. Ace king, of course, has me crushed. He checks it, I check it. It does get checked around. So we get a second chance of hitting our set, and we get a deuce of spades. He now bets out a very small amount of $25, looking like he's trying to get some crazy value. I'm just letting it go. One player did call him, and then he ended up showing pocket queens for the win. I stuck around in the game for about another 30 minutes or so. I lost a couple small pots. A couple of the action players left.